here's what could have happened. DiMaggio could have misread the signals from Hannah. Hannah's friend said Hannah told them DiMaggio had a crush on her. So Dr. Ramani Durvasula, clinical psychologist, is it really fair to point the finger at a 16-year-old child? This man is an adult. He is the guy who is having an obsession with her. And that doesn't mean that she shares that obsession and has an obsession with him.
I'm sorry, being 16 doesn't get you off the hook, Jane. The fact is she could have been an accomplice. Something strange was going down in their relationship. And I think this idea that it's irresponsible to think that she could be involved. Why? How many times do we see murders committed by family members? I don't care if they're 16 or 60. It happens. I do think that the relationship between the two of them was getting to be more and more inappropriate all the time. It makes me wonder if maybe her mother was starting to call them out on it.
Let me say this. Ashley Merchant, defense attorney, law enforcement has said she is a victim and nothing but a victim pure and simple. They're not going to go out on a limb and say that if they have questions.
Well, I don't think that she's actually capable of the type of violence and the type of actual brutal killing that was done in this situation. I don't think she could have done that to her mother. I don't think she was capable of doing that to her younger brother either. But I do think that there's a chance that she may be involved somehow, or there's more to this story that we don't know about. Some other type of illicit situation going on with Mr. DiMaggio, something else that we may never get the answer to.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said there's no way that
policies out there.
A child could have a role in something this brutal. And I want to bring in Dr. Lawrence Kobylinski to analyze the autopsy report, which holds some very gruesome details. Hannah's mother, for example, was duct taped around her neck and mouth. Plastic zip ties were used to bind her ankles together. The medical examiner says she had at least a dozen blows to the head, probably from the crowbar found near her. She also had a slit throat, a broken arm. Both of her legs were fractured. Hannah's little brother didn't fare any better. His body was so badly burned, the medical examiner could not even determine the cause of death, except to say there was no soot in his airways. So I want to go to Dr. Lawrence Kobylinski, famed forensic scientist. First of all, I want to say that I don't feel that in any way, shape, or form, this child who has suffered the horror of knowing, finally learning, after she was rescued, that her mother and brother died in this way. I don't think she has anything to do with this, and I want to say that flat out, and the cops agree with me. But Dr. Kobe, what can we learn from these autopsy results?
Well, it's clear that because the arm had both the ulna and radius, they were broken. The fractures to the arm, that sounds like it's a defensive wound. And she tried to protect herself, but she was restrained. She was gagged. And as you said, the cutting of the throat, that in and of itself would have killed her, but that was a post-mortem incision. She was brutally beaten over the head at least 12 times, causing these subdural hemorrhages, and that is exactly what killed her. I think you're right. This was a very violent crime. It was a crime of rage, and quite frankly, he had a gun. He shot the dog. So he could have very easily shot her, but that was not his intent. His intent was to bind her, restrain her, and beat her to death, literally beat her to death. Despite her attempts to save herself, it just was not enough.